Tonight's meeting is being live streamed. The link and login information can be found on the district website, is also being recorded and will be available on the district website as soon as it is possible. This meeting is now called to order. It is November 17th, 2021, and the time is 6:37 p.m. Our mission is to provide a safe and caring climate and culture in which we engage, inspire, educate, prepare, and empower all learners in partnership with their surrounding community to be successful in today's and tomorrow's society. Les, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then whenever you're ready, can you please call roll, Les?
Here.
Al Dahlgren.
Here.
Zach Dorhold.
Here.
Shannon Hawes.
Here.
Natalie Ringsmuth.
Here.
Monica Segura Schwartz. And Les Green is here. Additionally, the following cabinet members and staff are present at the District Administration Office. Willie Jett, Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Education, Dr. Lori Putnam, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education, Dr. Mike Rivard, Executive Director of Finance and Business Services, Amy Scalarud, Executive Director of Human Resources and Labor Relations, Tracy Flynn Bowe, Executive Director of Operations, Gary Ganji, Media Technicians, Paul Novak and Gordy Scott. Custodian on site is Steve Hain. The following cabinet members are virtually present. Director of Community Engagement and Communications, Tammy DeLand. Executive Director of Community Education, Adam Holm. Executive Director of Learning and Teaching, Lori Posch. Executive Director of Research, Assessment and Enrollment, Donna Roper. Executive Assistant, Jan McGuire.
Thank you. Now I'm looking for approval of tonight's board meeting agenda.
So move.
And can I get a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Scott and a second by Al. Les, can you please call roll?
Monica Segura Schwartz.
Yes.
Natalie Ringsmuth.
Yes.
Shannon Hawes.
Yes.
Les Green is yes. Zach Dorhold.
Yes.
Al Dahlgren.
Yes.
Scott Andreasen.
Yes.
Thank you, Les. Next up is a consent agenda. The consent agenda consists of non-controversial items that the board adopts routinely without debate. Any single member may remove an item from the consent agenda by requesting removal at the time the consent agenda is moved for adoption. On tonight's consent agenda, item A, approval of minutes of October 6, 2021 and October 20, 2021 minutes. Item B, approval of minutes from special board meeting on October 28, 2021 and November 3rd, 2021. Item C, approval of bills and other financial transactions in the grand total amount of $3,465,912.27. Item D, approval of personnel staff changes. Item E, acceptance of grant awards and donations. And item F, Catherine Johnson Education Center project change orders totaling $3,525.05. We have one request for removal of item B, correct?
E2.
Okay, can I just pull the whole thing? Is that, do you want to just me to do just
I just
B?
wanted to pull the November 3rd.
Okay, so we have one request to pull the November 3rd, 2021 minutes. Does anybody else want something pulled? Okay, so I'm looking for an approval of the consent agenda items minus B, November 3rd, 2021 special board meeting minutes.
So move.
And can I get a second?
Second.
So I have a motion by Scott and a
Second.
second by Al. Les, can you please call roll?
Natalie Ringsmuth,
Yes.
Monica Segura Schwartz,
Yes.
Shannon Hawes.
Yes.
Les Green is yes. Zach Dorhold. Yes. Al Dahlgren,
Yes.
Scott Andreasen,
Yes.
Thank you. So the November 3rd special board meeting, 2021 minutes, that was, just as a reminder, that was our second of the two special board meetings for superintendent selection. Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I would just like to ask that we amend those minutes to include a statement. As I read them, it said that Shannon Haas, basically that you began the line of questioning of Dr. Putnam. And I would just like it to indicate in there that we had questions and interview questions for Dr. Putnam for approximately 2 hours. In the minutes, it very abruptly goes from Shannon introduced to the board voted. And it's just, but there was a period in between there in which we were asked a lot of very deep questions and gathered a lot of information. So I think it would be good to indicate that within the minutes.
I agree. The first special board meeting minutes had more details in it than the second one. So Jan, if you can hear that, we're looking to, can you say the simple sentence and then we can all agree to add that to the minutes?
To amend the minutes to include a statement that we asked, the board members asked interview questions of Dr. Putnam for approximately 2 hours.
Okay. Any other discussion about that? Okay, so go ahead.
Just a question of process. What exactly did you say?
To amend,
So you're making a motion?
yes,
No, I'm looking, yes, he's making a motion.
yes, we pulled it. So I'm moving to amend the November 3rd board minutes to include a statement that board members and I had it, now I lost it. The thing that I said, yes, go
Interviewed.
Biden in here. That board members asked approximately 2 hours, or the board members interviewed and asked questions of Dr. Putnam for approximately 2 hours.
And Jan gives a thumbs up on that. She's got that. So I will,
Second.
Monica, any further?
Second. I
Okay, and
second the
Monica
motion.
seconds that. Any further discussion on that? Okay, we're liking it. Les, can you please call roll?
Al Dahlgren,
Yes.
Scott Andreasen,
Yes.
Zach Dorhold, Monica Segura Schwartz,
Yes.
Natalie Ringsmuth,
Yes.
Shannon Hawes.
Yes.
Les Green is yes.
We are just getting to be a well-oiled machine on this consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes from November 3rd.
As amended.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay,
I think that you meant to, or you meant to make the motion to amend them and approve them.
okay.
We can just
We
leave
can
it
do
like
this
that.
one more round. So now we are going to approve the amended minutes, and I have a motion by Monica, a second by Natalie. Any further discussion? Okay, Les, one more time.
Monica Segura Schwartz,
Yes.
Natalie Ringsmuth,
Yes.
Shannon Hawes.
Yes.
Les Green is yes. Zach Dorhold. Al Dahlgren,
Yes.
Scott Andreasen.
Yes.
All right, good job. Thanks.
We
Okay.
need more oil.
We're all pleasant, we're all smiling behind these masks and not empty, just staring at each other, so that's good. Okay, next up, we on to informational items. First up, we have response by varsity coach to reasons for non-renewal pursuant to Minnesota statute 122A.33 subdivision 3. The background in this, do you want to come forward, Mr. Keller? Thank you. So Mr. Keller was non-renewed from his position as Apollo boys varsity soccer coach at the end of the season by board action on November 3rd, 2021, upon recommendations from administration. Pursuant to Minnesota Statutes 122A.33, the board may or may not renew an annual contract with a coach as it sees fit. The statute provides that Mr. Keller be provided with the reasons for the non-renewal decision and a reasonable opportunity to respond to those reasons at a public board meeting if he chooses. The reasons for the non-renewal of Mr. Keller's contract are as follows. 4 items. Number 1, failure to create a culture throughout the team of discipline, sportsmanship, and respect for opposing players, coaches, and officials. Item 2, failure to properly model, supervise, and correct student-athlete behavior in accordance with district and MHSL rules, beliefs, values, and ethics. Item 3, repeated insubordination regarding district extracurricular program participation rules, expectations, and requirements, including but not limited to COVID protocols and attendance monitoring over the last 2 seasons. And item 4, failure to establish positive and productive working relationships with the activities office staff, activities director, and principal in the fulfillment of district expectations and in compliance with athletic team protocols and procedures. So Mr. Keller, welcome. You will have 10 minutes to address the board. Board members, please note that his response should be directly related to the reasons provided, and the board will not engage in discussion or debate in response to this presentation. Mr. Keller, do you have a statement written, or can I just name an item and then you can respond to that directly? I just want to make sure that we're staying on topic.
Yeah, I have a statement. It's basically regarding those 4
Okay,
topics.
as long as
and,
you think that that correlates, that works for me.
I think those topics are very vague and, they're not to the point, but I think they have to be vague because I don't think there is a lot of substantial facts to back those 4 topics. So, and here is why I
Okay,
believe that.
go ahead.
So, I'm here today as a concerned parent, coach, and community member. This is my last straw at trying to continue my mission of boys soccer coach at Apollo. I was told by Tracy Bowe this meeting was not an attempt to regain my position and that the decision was already made. Sorry, I might struggle a little bit through this. It's an emotional deal for me. So. But I didn't think it was fair. I didn't get a chance to address the board. And even if there's a 1% chance, I'm willing to take it. I'm not ashamed of the accusations on that list, and I'm not ashamed of anything I've done as an Apollo coach over the last 6 years. I also wanted to know, I felt the board and the public needed to hear the truth about the administration at Apollo and the audacity of this non-renewal. I would like to start with just a quick parent testimonial that would, I think, have good, I guess I just would like to start with a parent testimonial, and then from there I would go into my personal opinions, because I feel that the parents and players are more important than what my feelings would be, because at the end of the day, it's their kids and their children that I am coaching. So to whom it may concern, I'm writing this letter today on behalf of Chad Keller regarding his plight to remain head boys soccer coach at Apollo High School. As both one of the heads of Apollo's booster club, as well as a parent of one of his players, I'd like to go on record as saying I'm fully in favor of Chad being retained as coach at Apollo. As a father, I take very seriously the responsibility of handing any one of my children, to someone who will leave an impression on them. For better or worse, I've known Chad since my son's involvement in the soccer program at Apollo began in June of 2020. I have some experience coaching youth boys as well, so as not only a father, but someone with a coach mentality, I've watched Chad pretty closely. I've watched how he deals with good players as well as how he deals with the players who aren't as talented. We have a very racially diverse team, so I've also watched how he deals with the people of color versus how he deals with the Caucasian players. If nothing else, I've always been impressed with the level of fairness he is with everyone. His ability and want to treat everyone the same shouldn't be heralded, but unfortunately, in this day and age, it should be mentioned that no one gets superior treatment. I've never seen him do something for a player that he doesn't do for player A that he doesn't do for player Z. From offering to pay for food to give rides home to players, he's gone above and beyond the normal coaching duty. There's never been one single instance where I have seen anything that I felt was Chad's fault. Not to say he's a perfect coach or our kids are all perfectly behaved boys. However, being in charge of as many different nationalities and personalities presents different challenges. Chad has a tough job, but I believe he's taken even the hardest cases and challenging them to become better men by the time they leave Apollo. I also believe Chad has been asked to take a number of kids who have little to no structure or guidance on how to act in public, at home, and single-handedly expected to polish and raise them given his 2 hours a day at practice. That is not a fair expectation, and I think his firing or non-renewal is more than wrong. Chad has passion for these kids. He's not doing it for the paycheck. I've come across a number of coaches you can tell have no passion for the kids or the sport. Chad wants these boys to be pillars of society more than he wants them to be all-state soccer players. I think the boys are lucky to have him, and I truly feel he deserves this job. He's an Apollo alumni, as well as played soccer at the school during his years here. I would like to add that 24 years of Apollo, three generations of Apollo students come from my family. So I'm just going to leave it at that for now, and then I'm going to go into my statement. So I wanted to share just one of many parent statements I could share today, or player statements. But I feel that that's most important as a coach, are what the players and parents feel about the coach. I could also give affidavits from officials and coaches and predominant officials in the area or surrounding areas. So I'd like to start by giving a background of my experience and history of coaching in soccer. I've been coaching for over 15 years, 10-year varsity coach, 4 at Sauk Rapids, where I was the coach of the year. 6 years at Apollo, 120 games coached at Apollo, around 200 varsity games in total. In that time, I've received 2 red cards. Those are for misconduct with officials. Those red cards were from Brainerd, which I have affidavits from numerous other coaches and people within the district that would vouch that something needs to be changed in Brainerd with the officiating there. The facts are, before I arrived at Apollo, there was issues with uniforms not being returned, issues with players going to outside games and attacking officials, numerous red cards and game ejections. In this time, I've coached over 184,000 instances where players could have received a red card. In that time, my players have received 7 red cards. I didn't do the percentages there, but I feel it's very minimal. And so the facts are, before I arrived at Apollo, there was issues with uniforms not being returned, players going to outside games, attacking officials, numerous red cards, game ejections. I made adjustments, which brings me to my next point. I requested two buses, which is the norm in the district. That request being denied directly led to a bus incident. I then had a meeting with Mrs. Alicia Fisher, who wanted me to sign a write-up for these instances, which I agreed to if she would add in a report that I requested 2 buses. Alicia then slammed her computer closed and said, "We are done with this explicative for now," and left the room. Then I didn't hear anything until months later, after an incident with some students and the athletic director at the gate prior to a game. This would have been prevented had they had security at the gate, which is, again, the norm in the district. This had nothing to do with my players lacking discipline or respect for adults. As was indicated in my second meeting with Alicia Fisher, 2 months from the first one. I was shocked then when Alicia said there was an investigation into my conduct at the gate and put me on paid leave for multiple weeks. And I was not able to finish out my season. I was not able to congratulate my players for their accomplishments or be with my players. And they were not able to be with me, which I have other affidavits from parents that hurt the players very much, ones that I've been with for multiple years or a few years. I take full responsibility for any team I've ever coached. These situations are a direct result of administration's failure to enact suggested protocols, which are the norm in District 742. I believe part of this is due to the high turnover in administration. As some of you may know, I've had, this was my 5th athletic director in 6 years this year. And that being said, I had a very good relationship with this year's athletic director, and a matter of fact, so this would have been Wednesday, September 22nd, she said this, quote, "I was just thinking that you're probably one of the few adults in their lives who are always on their side, and I'm glad they have you." Lastly, I appreciate your guys' time. I thank you for all your commitment to doing what's best for our kids. I apologize for this coming to this point. I don't believe it should have, but I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, and sticking up for what you believe in, and I would never quit or give up on my team. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have one other informational item on our agenda. It's a school presentation, Oak Hill Community School presentation. Please welcome Principal Deb Jokola. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Haas, members of the board, Superintendent Jett, and members of our community. Thank you. Should I start over? We're good? I am pleased to be here this evening to take you on a tour of Oak Hill Community School. Before I start, oh, is that better? Okay, here, let me rearrange just a tad. Okay, thank you. All right, is that better? Perfect, thank you. So before I start, I'd like to take a minute and just look back. This was the beginning of my time at Oak Hill. Our enrollment has increased from 620 in 2016 to our current enrollment of 773, not including preschool. With preschool included, our current enrollment is 803. Many of the students you see in this picture are now in 5th grade. It's been rewarding to know that we were able to build and grow together. Here's where it all starts every day. We see approximately 600 students get bused to school, and with close to 200 being dropped off every morning at the front of the building. This process needs to be efficient and safe. The front of our building was under construction up until the time school started, but that wasn't the only construction we needed to contend with. The photo on the right goes north into St. Cloud, while the photo on the left goes south towards Tech High School. It wasn't until just a few days before school was set to start that both entrance and exit were accessible. We now have safe routes to school, a new road with lighted speed limit signs, including a radar reading coming in from the south by Tech, sidewalks, and bike paths. Our controlled entry requires visitors to enter the building to come into the office for an authentication, while staff maintain building access to both the building and the office with the use of their key cards. The SIP plan is our blueprint for success with our learners. While we are always looking to achieve our building goal to improve MCA math and reading scores for grades 3 through 5, we also knew that we needed to take a different approach as we return to full in-person learning. Working with the leadership team and district leaders, we selected 3 goals we believe would have the greatest impact. The first is around social emotional learning, the second, math and concrete representational abstract processes, and the third is STEAM. Let's start with social emotional learning. Conscious discipline is an initiative that has been building in our district for the past 5 years. That positioned us well to add identified space in each classroom dedicated to students' social emotional learning. Every classroom has an area defined for students to calm and self-regulate. There are visuals to support breath work and tools that assist students in this work, such as the breathing ball you see pictured on the bottom left, with additional sensory tools. Conscious discipline utilizes brain state instruction to help our students understand that when they are in their red brain or brain stem, which is fight, flight, or fright, or freeze, or in the emotional blue brain state, when emotions are too big, they cannot access their brilliance in the prefrontal cortex or the green brain, where we make decisions and reason. These tools help our students to get back to that green state where learning occurs. This second grader in the picture at the right is using a timer that takes approximately 7 minutes for that blue fluid to go to the bottom half. It's our most popular calming timer. The previous pictures were at a first grade classroom, while this slide features a 5th grade classroom. The picture at left is an example of a daily schedule that is posted in every classroom, which is visible to students throughout their day. When we make our day more predictable, students can have a sense of structure to the day and have the ability to answer the question, what's next, in support of creating a sense of safety and security. In addition to putting these structures in place, every class follows the first 6 weeks of responsive classroom lessons. The lessons are conducted as a routine during morning meeting, with the overall outcome being a sense of community for our students in their classrooms, sometimes referred to as the school family. This is a powerful engagement strategy to assist students in getting to know one another, names, common interests, and likes and dislikes. We hope to lay the foundation of lifelong friendships. The picture on the right shows a student using the breathing ball referenced in the previous slide. Deep breathing communicates that all is well to the brain, supporting the return to the green brain where students can learn. We are also keeping SEL in the center with our Oak Hill ambassadors. These are 4th and 5th grade students who apply to be grade level representatives. Our school counselors work with these students in a program called No Place for Hate. This anti-bullying curriculum helps students to have a deeper understanding of the harm of bullying so they can be ambassadors and talk to their peers about this issue. This proactive approach is featured in our Oak Hill video at the end of this presentation. Oak Hill has been a PBIS exemplar school since 2012. We are proud of this long-standing status, and this layer of SEL continues for us this year as well. We work to teach our students expected behaviors in each setting at school, from hallways, lockers, and bathrooms, to playground, cafeteria, and classrooms. We celebrate our successes daily and monthly. Daily by entering WOW, Wise Owl Way tickets for daily drawings for small prizes, as well as monthly PBIS assemblies when we announce Students of the Month, who receive certificates and get a photo op with our mascot, Oakley the Owl. We let parents know, and photos are posted at school and streamed on TV. We know that our continued focus of what we want to see from our students will grow these positive behaviors. Our second SIP goal is around CRA Math. This is a process for teaching math concepts that supports number sense and a deeper understanding of mathematical processes. The C stands for concrete, meaning physical objects that can be manipulated to support concepts like quantity, as seen here in this kindergarten class, where students are learning how to work with quantities, patterns, and shapes as a foundation for number sense and visual spatial skills. This district-wide initiative supports all of our learners in the process of moving from this concrete understanding of math concepts to the R, which is representational. The R might be what you remember from math class as the pictures of objects to group or count. The final step, A, is for abstract. This stage in the process uses numbers and symbols to solve what we think of as traditional math. These kindergarten students are working at the concrete stage to understand math using a balance. This integrated science and math activity not only supports deeper understanding of new concepts, it's fun and engaging, which is exactly what we need as we have work to return to full in-person learning. While these activities are primarily mathematical, it is noted that students are also engaging with some engineering skills by taking something as basic as a cardboard tube and building with purpose. This example of CRA shows fourth grade students who are being introduced to the inverse operations of multiplication and division using arrays. By starting at the concrete stage, they can experience how the processes are different but related. They can experience the fact that the quantity of family remain the same. The processes are what change in your final answer, but you can relationally observe this with the manipulatives. Of course, we are also teaching vocabulary that supports descriptions of the processes and move to pictures that continue to support the concept development, with the end game being the abstract number sentence. This is not new math teaching. It's exciting to know that we're expanding this to all of our number concept introductions, and we're doing this across the district in all of our classrooms. Our third SIP goal is related to STEAM: science, technology, engineering, the arts, and math. This is where our learning comes together. You can see this example of our new smart TVs. This enables us to provide visuals in still and video formats. We can utilize technology for teaching and learning, this combined with our continuing one-to-one device initiative supports classrooms moving through the 21st century. Here we see third grade students who are engaged and inspired to find out the best catapult. These young scientists and engineers are learning about physics with force and motion by experimenting with the catapults for accuracy as they try to hit the target in the first picture, and with motion as they try to get those pumpkin erasers through the hula hoop. While they're having fun, they are learning about all the variables involved with their trials, and they're collecting data to track when they succeed. Here's another example of that catapult activity, and you can see by the focus on the young boy's face how this activity is engaging him and will provide all of the children in the group with background knowledge on how things work. These first grade students are plotting the path they want to program their little robot to follow. Using arrows in the spaces, they are learning about the fundamentals of programming. They are making the connection that when you program a computer, you need to define every move the robot will make. This trial and error system helps to develop persistence, observation skills, and how to modify the plan if it doesn't go as expected. And like all good scientists and mathematicians, they learn that some of the best learning occurs with trial and error. Now our students are putting their programming to work with the help and guidance of our teachers. It's fun and exciting when the robot's path goes as planned, and an opportunity to learn from mistakes when it might not. We strive to integrate our site improvement outdoors, which is natural and inspiring. We try to inspire our students to be good by teaching them about humans and our woodland creatures. Being outdoors is naturally engaging and inspiring. Here are some of our kindergarten friends out for a walk in the big woods. They bring the outdoors inside for sensory exploration, supporting language and vocabulary development. These first grade students are also experiencing nature in all beauty, with space to explore and absorb peace and nature, calming and supporting that first SE. Our older students also to sit in quiet by journaling and also to be inspired. These young naturalists are using a magnifying lens to get up close and personal with a pine cone. While these children look like they're tree huggers, they are also developing background knowledge for understanding math concepts such as circumference. All this learning is going on while they're having a great time in the outdoors. We don't only enjoy the big woods in the spring and fall. We have walking club during recess when an adult takes students into the woods on the walking path year-round. And of course, our fabulous physical education department gets our students outside for winter sports, skiing and sledding included. We have one full-time art teacher and a second art teacher we share with Kennedy. Here you can see them working with 5th grade students as they prepare to create self-portraits. They examine famous artwork or artists who the students are familiar with, like Tim Burton, who has created many animated movies examining his style when he draws people for his movie features. Our music program is also second to none. On the left, you can see Mr. Murphy, it's kind of dark, but he's there, playing his guitar while he teaches students a new song. Ms. Bogle, our second music teacher, is teaching her students to sing America the Beautiful in honor of Veterans Day. Our community partner, PTSA, still meets monthly with the primary objective of working to increase family engagement. They support through fundraising efforts such as the walkathon in the spring and Oak Hill apparel purchases. We hope to have our last blast at the end of the year to celebrate, complete with teachers in the dunk tank, principal and assistant principal as well. As you can see from this last blast, from just a few years ago, the event is well attended and all the money raised goes into the PTSA fund to support activities throughout the school year. This year, we also have a new partnership with the St. Cloud Rocks. The Rocks have donated over $7,000 to Oak Hill for our pilot RBI program, this baseball term for reading books independently. We are working to order 5 book titles for every student in grades 3, 4, and 5 to read and then keep, along with backpacks to keep it all organized. This was all donated through the Rocks organization. All right, and here's a short video highlighting our science program and our school counselor who leads the ambassadors using No Place for Hate anti-bullying curriculum.
I was working in corporate at a bank. When they started bringing new people in, I was the one coaching them. I knew that wasn't my passion, and talked to family, friends, and decided I want to be a teacher because I really like to train and coach. And so I went back to school. Many years later, got my license. Science was always my favorite. That's what I knew most about, and that's what I wanted to teach. I like the hands-on, the creativity, inspiring kids to do more than just read out of a book. And that's kind of what's led me to my career in science and then the STEM, Project Lead the Way. That sparked my interest and my passion even more. I guess my experience in teaching middle school, having to move faster, more standards. I can bring that down to this level. That's why I got involved with elementary school to begin with, because I was a middle school teacher for a long time. And the kids coming in didn't have a lot of that background knowledge. And I felt that I could provide that need to elementary level, get them ready for middle. I think STEM is very important in getting the kids to open their minds and to explore and to realize that it's not just reading about plants and animals. It's hands-on, just exploring, doing research, coming up with new ideas, inventing new things. Thinking more of when they get out of elementary into middle school, high school, even a career. That's where I'd like to push them to go. And I want to make, most of the time they don't even know they're learning because they're just enjoying it so much. Because that's how they learn. You have to inspire them, and then they're not going to be inspired to do any more than just the basic, the bare bones curriculum. And I want to see where they can go. And I want them to be able to take that to the next level.
I became a school counselor when I was first getting into education. I started a school counselor around. I was just very interested in doing that type of work, so I went back to school and I got my degree to be a school counselor. I check in with kids in the morning to see how they're doing. I set up times to meet with students that need a little extra support. About how things are going. So I collect and offer a lot of empowerment to students. So last year, I found this program called No Place for Hate, and I really liked it because it's really empowering. We applied for the program and were accepted. Now we've been meeting with students and we're looking at rolling out the pledge of No Place for Hate, and the pledge is really all about anti-bullying. Our ambassadors are 4th and 5th graders that applied to be a part of the program, and they knew when they were applying that we were going to focus on No Place for Hate. So a lot of them were really passionate, and it allows them to have opportunities to collaborate with teachers and other students. It's important that we have this program because we want students' voices to be heard. And they are our change makers. Our youth are the ones that can make a difference in our community and our school. And one of our students, when we were meeting, he said it should be a place for we want to create students feel a part of the community and welcomed.
Oak Hill, together.
Oak Hill, together.
Okay, thank you very much. Do you have any questions for me?
Does anybody want to jump in? Have any questions, comments? Scott?
Yeah, could you tell me a little bit more about the ambassador program? Are these older kids taking care of younger kids, or what do we got there?
They're 4th and 5th grade students, and we have a boy and a girl from every classroom in each, at each 4th and 5th grade room. And they work in their grade level and maybe with 3rd grade students, not necessarily with really young kids, but more with their peers, to talk about bullying and its harmful impacts, and to sign that pledge of No Place for Hate, meaning we want to grow kindness and caring and compassion for one another.
How does one get chosen as an ambassador?
The school counselor went around to each. She described what the school ambassador activities would be, and then students who wanted to participate completed an application, and then the school counselor, in collaboration with the classroom teachers and based upon some of the responses that the students gave, then were nominated to be those ambassadors.
So they're actually teaching their own age group then?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Do they have much in the way of influence or authority?
I wouldn't say authority. The No Place for Hate is a curriculum, and it's originated from the Anti-Defamation League from more than 50, 70 years ago. And it's just been there a long time, and they've created curriculum that helps children to understand how words matter. You know, name calling, those things can be very hurtful. And so to understand that impact, and then the instruction goes to these children. You could see they were kind of modeling some of that, being inclusive of inviting someone to join them for a game. It comes down to basic friendship skills and how you build community and create long-lasting friends, because that's part of what makes school enjoyable and fun. They want to come every day to see their friends. And so they want to spread that and get other kids to come with them as their peers to make that same commitment.
Words do matter. I know in our own household, we try to avoid name calling because it hurts and you can't take it back. It's out there.
Yeah.
Concrete representational abstract. That's hands-on, basically.
Yes, it is.
What a good way to learn.
I agree. And the nice thing is that the kids are having such a good time that they don't even know how much they're internalizing in terms of number concepts and ways that numerical sentences are really representational of those concrete objects that they're manipulating. And especially coming off of a year of distance learning, where everything kind of went two-dimensional, it's nice to bring everybody back into the three-dimensional world where we can manipulate objects and do fun things and learn so much about how the world works. It also inspires children with their natural curiosity.
How did distance learning impact your school?
Well, that's kind of the million-dollar question these days. I can say that one of the surprising impacts was stamina. Our students back in the classroom, they get very tired. We're noticing that. And it's not just sleepy tired, it's also physical fatigue. Our PBIS teachers have noticed that the kids that, where they used to measure how many times you can run back and forth in the gym before you're winded, the number of times is very much decreased. Their strength is also not as much. We can even see that as students are getting out of the car in the morning in the front of the building, they're struggling to close car doors. And some of them are really little, you got to take that into account. But people who have been doing it for a while are noticing things like that. And so we're really working, again, I think our PHYED program does an outstanding job of really building up stamina, strength, and endurance. And we're just really working to build the stamina of our learners to extend that ability to focus and attend.
You mentioned an organization, PTSA. Is that the same as a PTA?
Yes, exactly.
They do fundraising and activities and that type of thing.
Correct. And one of the things that we really miss about our PTSA is all the volunteerism that they do in our school. Right now we're just under some of those limitations. And we miss having parents being able to be in our classrooms and in our school at will, because we like to be open and welcoming. And I look forward to that day when we can be once again.
Some schools have very strong PTAs, and others do not. Where does yours rank, and how do you maintain that and grow it?
Well, I can't speak to exactly how it ranks. I don't know the answer to that, but we are continually trying to grow it. It's one of the side effects of the pandemic is it hasn't been as active just because of the limitations with family engagement. But we continue to try to grow that and recruit people, and it does take active recruitment. And we want our PTSA to be reflective of the community where we are.
Okay, so how do you recruit? I know that Dr. Putnam had a tremendous PTA at Kennedy. How do you build that? How do you recruit these people?
Sometimes it's through connections, like, for example, maybe a parent and a teacher really connect. And so it's creating that invitation. Why don't you come and join us? We meet once a month. Here's what we do. And then just try not to overwhelm people when they show up. Just try to make them feel welcome. And just what do we have in common? And sometimes not just following the agenda, but I think getting personal and just talking just as friends and community members who share a common interest.
I know that some of the PTAs, we are each assigned to school as school board members. Some PTAs are active and invite us to come. Others just go away. We don't want any school board members around. How does that reflect in what you have at your school?
I would welcome any board member to come and join us. We meet once a month, second Tuesday of the month at about 6 o'clock. And if you'd like to come to Oak Hill, our doors are wide open. We would love to have you come and visit. I'm very proud of what we've built there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Kind of a quiet group. Les, go ahead.
I think everybody wants to say, great presentation.
Oh, Oh,
great information.
thank you so much.
Fabulous. I mean,
Thank
it
you.
was. I think you answered a lot of questions as it was going along, and so it was very well done and well put together. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Natalie?
Natalie?
Is it the Lord? Hear you, Lord. Yeah, thank you for the great presentation. I'm so excited to hear about it being a no place for hate school. In my job, we work with ADL for some instances, and so that curriculum is amazing. And like you said, they've been doing this work for decades. So just wanted to shout that out and say way to go.
Thank you very much.
Was that a grant then? How did you say you applied for this?
Yes,
So exactly what did you receive?
Sandy Shuttle, the counselor that was featured in the film, she found out about it. I don't know if it was online. She brought it to my attention, and it's a $600 grant that basically, if we applied and received it, we got the $600 worth of curriculum free. Also, connection with a gentleman who helps us guide our work with his experience. And so we meet online occasionally and then have access to all the curricular materials. I did talk to, at that time, our equity department and just vetted it through them first, just to make sure that that would be in line with all of our strategic plan and mission. So, yeah, we've been working on it since August.
It sounds great. Yeah, thank you very much. Anybody else? Al?
Normally, don't curriculum decisions go through the curriculum committee?
Well, yes, you are absolutely correct, but I think because it was a finite program through ambassadors and the counselings department, we call them our ambassadors. It used to be what was called student council. So, yeah, that was the route we took, and yeah, if it was an error, I guess I apologize for that.
Well, what it's in policy. It's in policy how we develop and implement curriculum. And so it does consider individual schools would be implementing curriculum that hasn't gone through the process. And just reading some about the program right now, actually, just looking it up and reading, there are some things in there that I think are very questionable in the curriculum. And I'm not saying it's a bad curriculum. I'm not saying that it doesn't have some good goals. I'm saying that there are some things in there that we may not want to implement within our district, and some requirements and things where we're giving up some, it sounds as though we're giving up some of our autonomy in order to participate in this. So I would ask that we take a close look at it.
Okay. Yeah.
So one of the things that I just wanted to throw out there, and I know that Lori Posch, our executive director, is thinking about speaking, but Lori, you're okay. You and I can have a conversation after this. One of the things I just wanted to put out there was Miss Deb Jokola. So she's at Oak Hill Community School. She's a newbie. She's a first-year principal. And so you just listen to a first-year principal who's a newbie, who's in our largest elementary school, who's in our school that has had the most change in the last 7, 8, 9 years. And that's not a simple thing. And so one of the things that I just, I thought Dr. Green was signaling me. Oh,
Sorry.
that's okay.
I'm not at an auction.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I almost said sold. Yeah, exactly. And so one of the things I just want to put out there is Deb is brand new. Her assistant principal is brand new. And to watch some of the things that they've had to do in the beginning of this school year, where students haven't been in school in 15, 16, 17 months, where staff has not had all their students face-to-face 5 days a week. And she talked about that fatigue. Deb has been someone who has not shown that fatigue in front of her staff. She hasn't even shown that fatigue as it relates to assistant superintendents and superintendents coming through her door saying, "What do you need?" And so, Deb, we're always going to sit there, and you need to start being honest with that, because we expect that. But you've handled it marvelously, and the beginning of your tenure as a lead principal is off to a good start.
Thank you, Superintendent Jett. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you for the presentation. You can see your passion that's shining through to the kids too. So thank you. We're glad you're here.
I'm very fortunate. I love what I do.
We can tell. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next up, this is an action item. It's the audit report. And joining us, Nancy Schulzenberger from Bergen KDV. And then Amy Scalarud.
Administration, thank you for giving me some time to go over the results of our audit. I'm going to talk about the reports that we issued and then also go over some financial analysis tonight. So starting out with the reports, first of all, the independent auditor's report. This is in the front of the financial statement document, and it summarizes the work that we did, talks about the fact that these are the district's financial statements, and then it has the all-important opinion paragraph that summarizes our opinion, just that, on the financial statements for the year related to the audit. And what we're issuing for the year ended June 30th, 2021 is an unmodified opinion, which indicates everything is fairly stated based on the results of our audit. So it is a clean opinion and the best that we as your auditors can offer. Beyond that opinion letter, we have several other required pieces of communication. First of all, our report in accordance with government auditing standards. These standards are required because you're a school district in the state of Minnesota. It's outlined in statute. And they require us to look a little closer at your internal controls and then also compliance with laws, regulations, contracts, and grants. Based on the work that we did in accordance with those standards, we have one internal control finding, the lack of segregation of accounting duties. That's not new to the St. Cloud district. It has been there and is very common for school districts in Minnesota, just due to the number of staff that you have in your finance office and how many you've decided it takes to operate effectively and efficiently. And then we had no compliance findings related to those standards that we were required to report. And then the next report talks about single audits, or a report in accordance with uniform guidance. So this is related to the federal funding that you receive and the amount of funding that you receive. We're required to take a look at several programs. We did take a look at 3 of them this year. And based on that work, we're issuing an unmodified opinion on compliance, so no reportable compliance issues. We did have one internal control finding, and that related to some reimbursement requests for the meals served that is being corrected through the state of Minnesota, so not an issue at year end. And then our last official report is our report on the results in accordance with Minnesota legal compliance. The Office of the State Auditor has very specific state statutes that they like us to look at annually, and based on our work there, we had no findings. So all of those reports are housed in the financial statement document, and then in the other document, the communication letter, we have the financial analysis, which I will go over tonight. There are several pages titled Required Communication. This would be our tool if we had any difficulties, disagreements, anything significant that we uncovered, and I'm happy to report there was none of that, so that is standard boilerplate language in that section. And then in the back of that document, there is some upcoming both legislative and accounting standard issues outlined. So moving on then to the financial analysis, general education aid is still your largest funding source, so it's important to understand the components of the calculation of that aid, starting with the basic formula allowance. So the chart that you see here takes us back 10 years to show the history of where you've been, and then also goes forward 1 year to 2022. If we key into 2021, which is the year we're analyzing tonight, you received a 2% increase in that number. And then the other part of that calculation has to do with your student count. So we do have several slides that take a look at those numbers. starting with the average daily membership, both resident and student served. So the top portion of the chart here takes a look at the residents for the last 5 years, and you can see you had been on a bit of an increasing trend through 2019 and then have seen decreases each of the years since then. And the bottom portion of the chart takes a look at the ADM served. So the top are your residents not necessarily attending in your buildings. The bottom are the students that you're actually providing education for. So overall, the ADM served did decrease a bit more than the residents, down about 548 students, coming in two main categories. First of all, your residents served did decrease about 375, and then that extended time with the things that were going on last year, that decreased about 112. So those were the two largest changes. Now to actually calculate, oh, I have one more slide, sorry. Forgot this one was here. So this slide just again highlights the information in a graphical format versus the charts that you saw on the previous page. Then we move to the actual calculation of general education aid takes those ADM served, weights them by grade level, and that's what you see in the chart here. So the weighting factors are on the top. Each student is receiving a 1.0 with the exception of secondary receiving a 1.2. So when we have those adjusted pupil unit numbers, which is what you see in the next two portions of the chart, you can see again that increasing trend through 2019 and then decreasing for 20 and 2021. The decrease here was about 459 or 4.3% for 2021. And this chart, again, in a graphical format, that similar information that you saw in the charts on the previous page, increasing through 2019, decreasing for 20 and 21. Switching gears then to look at some actual dollars, starting with the general fund sources of revenue. 2021 increased about $6 million or 4.2%. So you have seen an increase there. The largest category of increase came in the federal sources for this year. Those COVID funds, the CRF funds and the Education Stabilization Funds both housed there. So that category jumped up significantly by 6.8 million. Other categories relatively similar to 2020. And this chart has that same information in a graphical format and highlights that green section in the middle there. That's your state sources. So that still makes up about 76.7% of your total. Right above that, you'll see your federal sources, and those did jump up this year and became a bigger piece of the chart of the bar with that COVID-related funding that you did receive. And the next chart takes a look at your gross tax levies for each of the last 5 years, and you can see this is very consistent. That bar does not stray much when you look at the total. But when we look at the pay 21 numbers, there is some fluctuation between the categories. So the top, the green, that is your market value referendum, did decrease with the declining enrollment that you've experienced. And then offsetting that, the very bottom is the school maintenance. That number increased. So again, overall stable from the prior year. And taking a look at the expenditures, we have a pie chart here that outlines the functions or where that money went during the year. And you can see that 60% of the total went to the instructional categories, so direct instruction of your students. And if we were to compare expenditures in the general fund to the previous year, they did increase significantly for 2021, up about 7.7% or 10.7 million. Couple things going into that. First of all, you had pandemic-related expenditures that went along with the funding you received. So you purchased technology to meet the needs of the students. And then also there was increased transportation with additional routes that were needed to comply with the requirements. And then along with that, you had normal wage increases in your expenditures and also some long-term facility maintenance program projects in the general fund in 2021. The next chart takes those expenditures and calculates out a per student number. So when we look at 2021 and compare that to the previous year, you can see that number went up, and that's simply a function of increasing expenditures and decreasing enrollment. We also have some comparisons on this chart that show you where the St. Cloud School District is compared to statewide averages, and you can see that you hover right close to that statewide average for the last few years. When we look at the components, which is what we're showing on the bottom there, we've calculated it out by function, and then again compared that to statewide averages for 2020. Very close in total, but some fluctuations between the categories. So you can see that special education, as always, is higher than the statewide average, and then the offset to that is going to be that regular instruction being below. And again, increasing this year with the technology that you purchased, with the transportation increases that you saw, and the projects that were included. And we take all of that information and roll it together into the general fund operations chart. So we're again looking at 5 years, and you can see that you had a bit of excess expenditures in fiscal 21, but you also had a capital lease that came in as proceeds. So fund balance did go up by just under 1.7 million, ending at 23.8 million for the year. And when you look back, you can see that you had a bit of a dip in your fund balance in 2018, but have recovered and are now at pretty close to 24 million. And the next slide takes that fund balance and shows you exactly where those funds are sitting. So we have on the very top the non-spendable category. Those are items that have been purchased for the next fiscal year, the one that you're operating in right now. So we've set them aside as a prepaid. So they're segregated here. And then we have those restricted for amounts. Those are established by state mandate, and you have specific revenue streams that are required to be spent in a certain way. And those are the ending or residual amounts at June 30th. And then finally, if you look 2 numbers up from the bottom is the unassigned number. And this is what you have for future spending. And when we take a look at that as a percentage of expenditures, it's 11.2 at the end of the year, about 1.5 months worth of expenditures. And you have set a minimum policy for yourselves of 8%, so you are in compliance with that at the end of the year. And then another chart that takes a look at your fund balance, and this is unrestricted fund balance. So this includes the non-spendable, the unassigned, and the assigned amount. And we compare St. Cloud with the overall statewide average here. So first of all, you can see that the district has been increasing that number since 2018. So you have a positive trend going there, and you still are just slightly below where the statewide average is. And that number has hovered right around 20% for probably about the last 10 years. So that is the general fund. Then I have a couple more slides taking a look at your special revenue funds, starting with your food service fund. Both revenues and expenditures decreased in this fund this year. Fewer meals served with the pandemic, and then also the decline in enrollment. You do have about 20% of your expenditures in fund balance at the end of the year. And then finally, your community service fund. Revenues were up a bit in this fund related to some increase in state entitlements and federal aid that was included there. Expenditures decreased related to decreased programming. So you did have excess revenues of almost $650,000 and ended the year at about 3.3 million. When we look to the bottom of this chart, these are all the components. This fund is segregated as outlined again by state requirements, and you can see that all of your components are positive and have been for each of the last 5 years. So that fund is operating and charging effectively to maintain those balances. And that is the information I have. Does anyone have questions or anything you'd like to look at in more detail?
Anyone have any questions? Al? Comments?
Yeah, I'll just comment that I appreciate the audit report every year. It's a really important piece of what we do. And it's good to see that we are doing things right.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a great tool, except for this year, to follow the changes in expenditures and where our money is shifting to. And it's kind of a real good in-depth look at fund by fund what's going on within our district. But because of COVID, nothing is the same this year. So it's kind of like, it's just this big blip, and it takes away some of the usefulness from that standpoint. But as far as an audit is concerned, they're not a lot of fun. but they are extremely important, especially in a public organization, a taxpayer-funded organization. So I appreciate the work that you and KDV do for us on the audit.
Well, thank you.
So it's a big job for a big district.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Scott?
We have our usual problem with money out of general fund into special ed. It's perennial. I don't know what we can do about it, if anything.
It's just the way the funding formula works right now, and the demographics of the students that you serve. Mhm.
Go ahead, Al.
Madam Chair, I would move the 2020-2021 audit report.
And can I get a second? Seconded by Zach. Any further discussion? Okay, I have a motion by Al and a second by Zach. Les, can you please call roll?
Monica Segura Schwartz,
Yes.
Natalie Ringsmuth,
Yes.
Scott Andreasen,
Yes.
Al Dahlgren,
Yes.
Zach Dorholt. Les Green is yes. Shannon Hawes.
Yes. Thank you, Les. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. And before I go, if I could, I'd like to thank Amy and her team for being very well prepared. The audit went smoothly.
Thanks, Amy. And thank you. Okay, we have another action item to schedule the January reorganizational meeting, and it's being presented tonight by Board Member Monica Segura Schwartz, Chair of Board Development, Policy, and Governance Committee. Go ahead, Monica.
Thank you. So last board meeting, we discussed that we will have the reorganization meeting. We were proposing from our committee that it will be for January 10th. That will also imply that we move a board meeting, the first board meeting, to the 12th of January, because it will be the second Wednesday and not the first Wednesday, not to be before the reorganization meeting. And there were some questions about that, and the Tracy both sent information about the board policy 202 that established the reorganization meeting, and we will need to vote on it today, and we need to have a motion and a vote on it.
Okay, did anybody want to start with some discussion? We don't have a motion? Okay, looking for a motion or motion for, our goal here is to set a date for the January reorg meeting. So looking for a motion that includes the date.
So I'd like to make a motion to have the reorganization meeting for January 10th, 2022.
Okay, so I have a motion by Monica and a second by Natalie to have the reorg meeting for January 10th, 2022, and then I'll open it up for discussion. Al, go ahead. Then let's.
So I can't support moving it to the 10th for a number of reasons, but number one, and the most important, is there's one meeting, one school board meeting every year that the state legislature has decided is important enough in its timing that they created a statute to tell us when that meeting is. And the statute says the school board shall meet annually on the first Monday in January, or as soon thereafter as practicable. And whenever you use shall in legalese, that means you do it. You shall do it. It's not a you can do it, you should do it, you might do it. You shall do it. And that's a very it's a word of choice. It's a directive. And so then if you go beyond that and you say, okay, well, they do go and say that it could be done later, as soon as practicable. Well, what's practicable? Practicable would be the first time you can get a quorum of the board together to have that meeting. It wouldn't be a week and a half down the line. It would be on the first Monday or as soon as you can do it afterwards. So why does the legislature feel that it's so important that the school board hold the reorganization meeting? I can't breathe when I'm talking. Why do they feel it's so important to hold the reorganization meeting on the first Monday or as soon thereafter as you can do so? And we do a lot of things. The reorganization meeting is the jump start to the year for a whole lot of different functions. We elect a chair, a vice chair, a clerk, and a treasurer for the school board. We determine compensation. We have committee appointments. We select and designate a district legal counsel. We authorize the business office to use signature plates until the new ones arrive. We designate Amy to act as the financial director of the district and give her authority to conduct district business on behalf of the board. We designate the superintendent to sign legal documents on behalf of the board. We designate business service employees to conduct checking transactions. We designate business service employees to sign stop payments. We designate business service employees to make electronic fund transfers. We authorize the controller to sign purchasing contracts. We authorize select individuals to make credit card purchases. We authorize the superintendent and Amy to authorize user access to secure websites. And we authorize the chair and clerk to sign documents. And we also designate who our banks are going to be for the year. And until we do that, we're in limbo. And so the legislature comes out and says, school districts, there's one meeting every year where there's something really important that you've got to get done. And that's the first one. So you better do it on the first Monday in January or as soon thereafter as you can, because you can't conduct school business. You can't conduct business as a district until these things are done. And so if we want to wait until the 10th, we're really just putting the entire district on pause. We can't, I don't know how we pay any bills. We don't have anybody authorized to do so. We don't, I mean, to me, it's ridiculous. And there's no reason for us not to hold the meeting because we have a quorum of board members. And I mean, that one member can't make it. You can make it via the electronic communication, just as we have, Monica, we've done that in the past. But I can't see how we would turn around and say it's okay for us to disregard the legislature's order that we shall hold the meeting and hold it on some other date just because we wanted to. And to me, it would be dangerous. If something happened in our district and we needed any of these functions, they wouldn't be in place and we would look like fools, absolute fools.
Hold up here. We have Les, then Natalie, then Scott.
Long a statement, but I agree with Al. I think that I gave it a lot of thought, and I think, you know, it's a state statute, and although mom's important, there are other ways to manage that, and I think it's a matter of convenience that we should not be, for a matter of convenience, we should not change a statutory meeting time.
Natalie?
I guess I'm just seeking clarification. So all of the things that we did at the reorg meeting of 2021, those all expire on the 31st? That's what happens. They all expire, and then we have nobody in any of those. Even if we have it on the 3rd, something happens on the 1st or 2nd, nobody can move?
The 1st is a holiday, so there really wouldn't, nothing is active on the first. But then it would be the first Monday thereafter, so if the first, I mean, it could be, so yes, between those few days, until the first Monday. But the first Monday is gonna be,
I guess I was under the impression that you say this is who it's going to be until it is the next person that's going to be. So what you're telling me is that it's not until we revote, it's until the end of the calendar year.
the way that I understand it.
That's not the way I understand it. So
Because we wouldn't
is
have-
there some documentation of that somewhere?
We wouldn't have the option to not hold the meeting and just continue on with officers. We have to appoint.
But my question is literally like, where is that written? So I can access that information.
In the state statute, I mean, I guess I didn't feel that it was my responsibility to go and find that. The state statute says that the board shall hold.
I know what it says, Al. What I'm asking is where is it that says these expire on the 31st? That's my question. I know what the statute says, but
And I
that's what
don't
I'm,
have the statute in front of me, but it,
so I think that's my clarification is I don't think that's right, but I am happy to be wrong if someone can share with me how exactly I am wrong in writing.
Okay, Scott, then Monica.
Actually, my question was the same as Natalie brought up. Where does it say that it expires? Perhaps Tracy, our legal gal, could give us some reference. You've already, okay, you're asking.
I think when we make them, whatever is on the reorg meeting, the wording on there that talks about we're adopting this firm for, and I'm not quite sure what the wording is. But Monica, go ahead.
So what I wanted to say is that I had the same question and I did not find the answer. So I couldn't find the answer about when does everybody expire. I'm not sure, and I'm, again, could be corrected, that the expiration date is written into the statute. I believe that that's what we do when we elect new people. But just wanted to respond to that.
Les?
I think the way to resolve that is to ask the superintendent to contact the Attorney General's office and ask him for legislative intent and pose the question to them. And I think that the reason that there's a very specific reason when the legislature uses shall as opposed to may. They're not words that they throw around. They want you to have it as quickly as you can, and I think that our debate or question about whether this ends or that ends is not necessarily relevant to the concept of why we were talking about moving the meeting. We were moving the meeting because a member was visiting a parent out of town. And as a humanitarian, yeah, I can agree with that. As a school board member, operating in the public interest and operating as in following legislative intent, it's a little difficult to go down that path. That's all.
Thank you. Monica, I know you raised your hand, but we're going to let Tracy jump in here.
I just wanted to say that I'm happy to do a little research about the expiration of those appointments. I think the statute is more relevant in years where you've got change in board members because those terms do expire.
Monica, were you ready to jump in with something? Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to speak and the reasons that I have to do this and my opinion about the legislation. And I wanted to state that this is not a legal analysis, it's my personal opinion. And the reason why I'm asking you to do this a week later and not on the first Monday is because of the way that the year goes. The first Monday is the 3rd. It's really close after New Year's. And it will be a time that I will never be in this country, at least until my mother dies. It is really a cultural reason for me to be there, not only because my mother is alive and I wanted to visit her, is because the Christmas time and the New Year's time are really important cultural events in my hometown, in my home country. And then they will always be very important for my mother that also suffers of bipolar disorder, and these dates without her only daughter triggers her. So, so I do have very strong personal reasons to be there. I do understand that you don't want to support this and that you don't think that everybody has to obey by my personal situation. I understand that, and if you wanted to vote against my motion, you're free to do that. I do think that not being flexible in these type of situations makes this board unachievable for people like me, and makes us in this awkward and weird situation of having to ask you all for permission about this type of things that are important to me. I also don't think that this precludes us to do anything in the board, or that will preclude me, other than I will never be elected an officer if I don't come to the meeting, or I won't have an opportunity to voice my opinion about officers of the board at that moment, or other of those important matters. So those are my personal matters, my personal situations, and my opinion and my reasons to ask for this. Again, if you don't think that this should be, that you should obey by those reasons, I won't be advocating for this into the legislation, at least at this point, but maybe as I find more immigrant people that become part of board members, I'll do that for. But at the first instance, I do believe that this table has the power to do this at this time, if you wish to do so.
Okay, I just wanted to jump in and put my 2 cents in there. Monica, I admire and appreciate your values and the reasons why that you want to do this. I do disagree with that you attending remotely removes you from the possibility of holding a position. I disagree with that. Regardless of what the sunset date is on the reorg meeting, I think it's a very slippery slope, or a door that I'm not comfortable supporting that we open about moving this date, because I think we could go around the room. I know I certainly could myself and chime in with the same values that you have about family and parents, and come up with times that it would be really important for me to want to move a date on something, and then I have to make a judgment and say, okay, well, I have this responsibility and this responsibility, and then I need to pick one when they overlap. And if we gave you this, then where does it stop? Is it other board members? Is it myself? Is it administration? I can't support that, because I think it just keeps piling up and will forever be accommodating people, because we accommodated one and then now we have to accommodate another one and another one. Again, I support your values and I appreciate those and admire that about you. I'm hoping that you can find a way that you can attend remotely, and as long as we have that noticed properly, that you can do that. And I do not believe that it excludes you from wanting a position.
Okay, I'd like to call a question.
Go ahead.
I call to question. That means that I want to end the debate and call to vote.
Oh, okay. Motion by and a second by Natalie to set the reorg meeting, and I have to pull up my calendar here. for January 10th, 2022, and I guess, are you then saying, and, no, just that? Okay, and so we're not quite sure when we would be holding the first board meeting, but you're, okay, absolutely. So we have a motion and a second to set the reorg meeting at January 10th, 2022, and do we have a time?
Let's have in the motion that it was at 5 p.m.
5 p.m. Okay. All right, Les, can you please call roll?
Les Green is no. Monica Segura Schwartz,
Yes.
Shannon Hawes,
No.
Natalie Ringsmuth,
Yes.
Zach Dorhold, Al Dahlgren,
No.
Scott Andreasen,
No.
Okay, the motion failed then 5-2. So does anybody want to make a different motion?
I would move that we hold the reorganization meeting on January 3rd at 5 p.m.
Do I have a second?
second.
Okay, I have a motion by Al and a second by Les, and Natalie are jumping in for discussion.
This is concerning to me because things were said and we don't know the answer to them. Like, oh, everything expires on the 31st, and we don't know the answer, and we're going forward with motions without an answer. That's concerning to me. I don't know why do we have to do that right now?
Just me, I'm comfortable with regardless of that answer, of when it sunsets. That's not how I'm basing my opinion
Right, but
on.
that's the question that I asked, and I'm not comfortable without that. And so what's the reason why if a board member wants more information and it's not readily available that we can't do it next time?
Then you could, I believe you could motion to table this. I'm not the expert here on that, but I think that that's what you could do, is that you could motion to table it. Okay, but right now I have a motion and a second that is open for discussion, and then we'll get pushed to vote. Les, go ahead.
I don't have any problem with, I second the motion, I don't have any problem with waiting 2 weeks to get the information. I don't think it's relevant, but I think Natalie's point is she's asked the question, she should get an answer.
Okay. So do you want
I
to,
can't do anything unless Al does something, I think.
okay. Are you willing to pull back your motion to set the reorg meeting? Natalie is requesting that she would like to table this and move it on to,
I'm going to take my request off the table.
okay, never mind. Okay. All right, any further discussion? Monica?
I just wanted to state in the record that I won't be able to be remotely on January 3rd. I will be in a place in the country where I will probably won't have access to internet. However, you can have the meeting, no worries.
Natalie, go ahead.
Good Lord, y'all, are we a global district or not? Like, come on, statute, if it just said you shall have it and there was no or, I would 100% get behind what's happening here. But like this is kind of sick. I'm kind of worked up about it, if you can't tell.
I have a question addressing the issue about you wanting a board position. Can anybody answer this for me? Can
we not go there, please, Madam Chair? We're discussing a motion right now, so let's be strict about the motion that is on the table.
Okay. Any further discussion then? Les?
Just, what does it take to take 2 weeks to get this, to get the answer?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, the other thing is, I think it is a bit of a stretch to suggest that nobody like you from your culture would be able to participate on a board like this because of this one issue. Now, that's just my opinion, but I think that rather than do all of this stuff, I mean, we can wait 2 weeks, get Natalie's questions answered, and we may be back in the same place, that we can do anything we want to do. But the question is, do we want to? So.
Okay, and so my single opinion is, I am comfortable waiting. The answer that we would be getting, my vote would not change, regardless if you told me December 31st, January 1st, January 2nd, that doesn't matter to me. It's the other pieces of this that I wouldn't support. But I support waiting. Natalie, if anybody else feels that, I support if one person feels that we wait.
I would rather wait.
Okay, now we have two,
Take
maybe.
that issue off the table.
Okay.
Of not being clear.
Not being
about
clear.
Legislative intent.
So can I say something?
Absolutely, Monica.
Okay, we're discussing a motion to have the reorganization meeting on January 3rd. I really appreciate if we stick with procedure and discuss only that motion. I don't see that anybody's tabling. Right now, the motion, I don't know if Les is meaning that he is wanted to take his second off the table.
I want to withdraw my second.
Okay, there we have it.
I second it.
You second what?
I second the motion that is to have the reorganization meeting on January 3rd.
Sorry, Les.
Quite all right. Wanted to get out of the way.
Okay.
Well,
I'd like to call
I also don't think it's appropriate that, I mean, let's go back to the mask mandate.
I'd like to call a
I could have
question.
said that I was uncomfortable voting for it unless someone could come forward with absolute proof that masks work. So let's take that off the table. Let's table that until someone can come back and do so.
Okay.
It,
Okay, well, I'm comfortable voting without that answer because I wouldn't be influenced by it. Anybody else want to chime in for further discussion?
I will call to question, please.
Okay, so we have a motion by Al and a second by Monica to set the January reorganizational meeting for January 3rd, 2022 at 5 p.m. Les, will you please call roll?
Les Green is yes. Zach Dorhold. Shannon Hawes.
Yes.
Natalie Ringsmuth.
No.
Monica Segura Schwartz.
Yes.
Al Dahlgren.
yes.
Scott Andreasen.
Yes.
Call everybody?
Yes. All right, thank you. Next.
Chair,
You go ahead.
can you please say in the record that I may not be present at that board meeting, and it's not because I'm making a tantrum out of this. I already know that that's going to be highly difficult for me, and I won't be able to put it public in a public place and all what is required.
And that is heard. Thank you.
And noted. Thank you.
My question to you was, is it possible for you, without being present, to be nominated for a position? And I don't know that answer. Zach might, though. Okay. Okay, next up, we have an action item, summary evaluation of the superintendent evaluation, and it's presented tonight by Les Green, Chair of Board Personnel and Negotiations Committee.
I emailed it to you if you want me to email it again to you, Les? Okay.
Yeah, can we take a 5-minute recess and we'll get that printed?
Yep, I sure can.
you, Madam Chair. We have, the Personnel Committee, on a number of occasions have talked with Superintendent Jett and talked about his evaluation, and this is the final statement that we are offering about his performance. The St. Cloud District has been honored to have Willie Jett as our superintendent for the past 8 years. Superintendent Jett's evaluation results echo the leader we have seen him to be consistently, one who listens and leads in a calm and steady way with passion and integrity. The Board of Education met with Superintendent Jett to discuss the results of a survey completed by district's leadership and selected staff. The board and the superintendent discussed plans to continue leading in a student-centered manner, doing all we can to care for our students and staff and keep them safe. Superintendent Jett's goals for the remainder of this tenure are to create and deepen his connection with our community partners and continue to increase the capacity of his leadership team to be flexible and adaptable. Continuing to operate our school district during a global pandemic has brought opportunities for increased innovation, improved communication strategies, advancement in technology, and expanded family engagement strategies. We also have seen renewed energy in our community partnerships and an enhanced focus on adult learner opportunities. Our amazing staff and students have come together during this crisis in ways that make the hashtag 742 Together slogan ring true throughout all of our buildings. The board looks forward to a continued work with our trustworthy superintendent who's committed to engaging, inspiring, educating, preparing, and empowering all learners, just as our district mission statement states. That is our statement to you, Mr. Jett.
Okay, so are we going around real quick and making comments? That's what I was thinking. Yeah, all right. Who wants to lead us off here?
Oh, I will.
Okay, thank you.
I have the distinct honor of having been here during an interview process when this young man from South St. Paul or wherever he was from had the audacity to come to St. Cloud and think that he could be our superintendent. By the end of the interview, he had impressed all of the board members and especially me with answers to questions that were very deep from me about the issues related to diversity and managing students of color. He has proved to have outstretched my imagination in his ability to not only handle my intrusion into his job, but to bring staff of color to this area, which heretofore they were unable to do, and that he was a trusted person in the communities. That's probably why that took place. But also, in the words of Naeem Akbar, his point was, I will make sure that you have access, but I will demand excellence from you. And he's always demanded excellence from the staff he brings here, and he will not keep them if they don't prove to be what they should be. I think that's a leadership that was needed from him. So I appreciate all you've done for us. I think it's your father is not here, but I'll do it for him. Son, I am proud of you.
Okay, Scott, you want to jump in?
back to your military experience. Okay. Very impressive.
There you go.
I think back to the military experience you brought. It's, I mean, you're a graduate of Annapolis. It's a tremendous thing to do. And when you came in here, you said, well, I've got 7 bosses. You tell me to do something, I'll get it done. And you have. You've been very impressive. Thank you.
Zach?
Microphone. Hey, I'm using it. All right. Caught a little off guard, but as someone who observed the district for many years and seeing what we had gone through before you got here, and the panic, the constant crisis mode, or at least perception, and board members working crazy hard. There was the feeling that I don't know if anybody could do this, and you did. And our entire community, owes you a debt of gratitude. There's no easy fix, but just seeing this district become what it has, and having sailed through some very unique times, and the nature of where we were at when you came in is, that's a hard thing to correct. But since you've been on ships, sounds like you know how to steer them. We'll just keep going with the puns tonight. So thank you for choosing us when you did. It's gone well, and everything you've done here is obviously going to have a lasting impact, and has allowed us to have a nice ship to keep moving forward. So thank you, and you have to keep us updated monthly after you leave, so we know what you're doing, what you're up to, because I'm sure you can do whatever it is you want, whether it's fishing or running for president. I support either one.
Wow.
Al?
Willie, I'm very happy to have you as our superintendent. I have been for many years now. It's been 8 years, 9. You're in your 9th year. So as soon as I was on the board, that was one of the first things that we did, was a superintendent search, and selected someone who I believe is a exceptional superintendent. Should have been superintendent of the year if we could ever figure out how to get that application completed and dialed in and turned in. That you're well deserving of it. And I'll leave it at that. I was going to say something about others that have won it, but our lives crossed long before we ever met, through my Uncle John Hanson. And, you have told me about how he inspired you and kept pushing you and believed in you. And there's a real good reason for that. I'm certain that he saw the same qualities in you that we see in you as a board. You came to my dad's funeral, which was very meaningful to me. It was unexpected in a sense. I know I invited you, but I wasn't really expecting you to make the hour-long drive over to it. And I was very happy and pleased and honored to have you at his funeral. A person that meant a lot to me, and to have you there and meet with my family. And you got to have lunch, I believe, with my Uncle John Hanson. And then you went to his funeral several years later. So, like I said, our lives touched each other indirectly, long before we ever met. But you have been fantastic for this community. You've been fantastic for this district. This district looks nothing like it looked the day that you stepped in. I believe that all the changes that have been made are for the better. I think that our district is in a really good position right now. We probably won't ever be one of the districts that gets the Zillow high rating for best school district, because we have a unique group of students and cultures that it isn't a deficiency in someone's ability to learn. It's that they don't have the same opportunities to learn and haven't had the same opportunities to learn. Many of them haven't gone to school, haven't been in a K-12 school for 12 years. They may be a 7th grader that's been in school for 3 years. They're not going to perform at the same level as a 7th grader with a doctor for a dad and a lawyer for a mom who has been in school since kindergarten and pre-K and the best pre-K schools that you could possibly have. That it's just not going to happen. But we've come a long way, and we are addressing kids individually, not as groups. We are challenging those who are behind to get them up to grade level, and we are challenging those who are ahead to push them to the highest mountain that they can climb with their education. And that's all because of things that you've changed, and your team. I'm not going to give you all the credit. Your team gets a lot of the credit too, but it's because of those changes that we have a better district. And we have a district that is very well suited to do what we are doing. And I can't say enough about the changes that have been made, the way that you've done them. There's so many changes, Willie. The way we deliver education, the diversity in our staff we saw it last year in the staffing presentation, but the things that have occurred there, not just due to you, but due to you and Tracy and all of the people who work in the HR department and all of the people who work in the schools that are connecting with other people and recruiting people to our district. It's a culture change. And those culture changes are very difficult to do, especially in a district with the size of ours. But it's been incredible. You're still the superintendent for the rest of the year, so certainly expect you to do great things between now and the end of the year. And I look forward to the things that are to come after you leave. And yeah, stay in touch.
I was thinking about my 8th grade basketball coach today. His name was Mr. Souza. I went to what is now Prince of Peace school until 8th grade. And he also was my teacher in 8th grade. And he said to me one time, "I want you to be in accelerated math." And I'm like, "What is wrong with you?" "No, that's not me." And he said, "I just want you to try it." And so it was me and 2 other people in the class, and we went into another book, and sure enough, I guess since my dad's an engineer, I could handle it. But he saw things in me that I didn't see, and that's who you are. You always remind me of him, and he's someone that made me go into teaching and made my love for education so vast. And I got to say, the reality of my kids living in this district is that for a while they didn't go to district schools. And there was a plethora of reasons then, but this district brought my family, my kids, back into the district because of some changes that were made under your tenure, and it was the best decision we've made. I thought about the quote as well from President Obama, and he said, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for, and we are the change that we seek." So that quote I wanted to say that because that's how you lead. Not even like by saying it, but you're just like, this is what we need to do, let's go. But you let folks, you give them the direction, but then you let them lead and even sometimes fail. And that's what I try to do with my kids and with leading my organization and just our work in the community. But you're just real inspiring to me. And I hope someday you get to meet Mr. Souza and play some basketball with him. Thank you.
Monica?
Sorry. Willie, this year has been just like another year for you. So it's just after a fire, construction, all those things that you have to face every single year in this district. So I guess having a pandemic is just another thing that you just gotta deal with. And as usually, you did it with very much grace. I just want to tell you, the thing that you have done during the time here in building your team, I think that is the part that I most appreciate of your work, of your time here. How you have the team built and how you have inspired them to work together and to work with specific goals is something that says a lot about your leadership and the way that you have been working in this district and the changes that you have made that will last beyond your time here. And I am very, very, very thankful for that. So this year, as all the others, has been challenged in very new ways, and I'll let you tell me if it's more challenging than the ones before, if it's just like others. I will guess that it's more, but who knows, maybe it's not. But I know that people around here and around the country have not been or are not yet figured out how to deal with all that has happened. And that change, as we talk a lot about it, is very difficult. It's hard. And it's not just we need to embrace it, but we also need not to fear it. And change will always be fear just because it's unknown. And we know deep in our psyche that the known is safer even if it's harmful. So this year has been a lot of change for a lot of people, and we haven't seen the end of it. So I just wanted to ask you for keep going on as you have been going, and keep building and supporting your team the way that you have been doing it, and just spread a little bit thinner, just so everybody gets a little bit of that safetiness that you bring when you just are there to tell everybody that you got them and that you get what they're saying and what they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you for this past year, another great year, a year like no other. Sorry you couldn't use your experience probably and do it in your sleep because it's just new and different, and yet your skills and your leadership just keep being valuable tools for you. Thank you for the team that you've built and that you're leaving us with, because that is very valuable to us. And it makes this transition easier. So thank you immensely for everything you've done this past year and other years as well.
Okay. Well, first, I just want to say thank you for all of you in this room and the ones that are listening online or the executive team. You know that at times I'm uncomfortable with necessarily being the center of attention. And so I'm just going to say I'm humbled, and you've heard me say that before. One of the things I just want to add and make sure that I say, and a couple of people have kind of said that, it is my superintendent evaluation, but I've always believed it is a reflection of us. Okay, it's us as a team. And when I say team, I'm talking about the Board of Education. I'm talking about the executives. I'm talking about the district leadership team. And that team is working together for the betterment of young people. And the way I always say it, simply put, it's providing access and opportunity. And so keeping this short and keeping this sweet, I'm again saying thank you. We do have work to do in the upcoming months. We do have things that we are focused on, but as we've all said in this room, together, we can figure this out and we'll be better off because of it. So thank you. I do need to just throw out there, because I was touched by everything everybody said. I need you to hear that immensely. There's two people in this room who were here when I first interviewed. And I had never thought about the fact that our lives crossed in some way before I even come through the door. And he talks about his Uncle John, and not everybody understands the back path or the backstory to that, but that's Coach Hansen to me. Okay, that's football coach to me. That's the man that ran our high school building. And Coach Hansen was just this quiet, cool, calm presence that always had the number 1 or 2 team in the state of Minnesota. Every year, year in, year out, that's just who that is. And so when he says Uncle John, that's Coach Hansen to me. And I was honored, Al, to be able to come sit with your family and for you to invite me. I just need to make sure I said that. Dr. Green, I could get choked up because you talked about my dad. And so thank you for that. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, a few tears here. Next up is the discussion item. We have proposed revised board policy 512. It's the second reading, school-sponsored student publications and activities, presented by Dr. Lori Putnam, Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Education.
Thank you, Chair Haas. Just a quick reminder, this is 512, and it talks, the purpose of the policy is to protect students' right to free speech and official publications and activities, while also balancing our role as a district in supervising those and having smooth, safe operations of our public school. Last time we reviewed, had some nice discussion, and the only changes that we left that conversation with were the recommended changes of adding the prohibited, where the harassment and violence or prejudice is prohibited in other policies, which are 413 relating to staff, 514 and 522 related to students.
I know we had a lengthy discussion last time. Any comments or anything? No, it was thorough. Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to reports. First up, report, Willie Jett, Superintendent of District 742.
Good evening, Chair Hawes and members of the board. In my tonight's superintendent's report, it's basically all about students. So congratulations to Tech senior Faizeen Ahmad. He's been named a Merit Scholar semifinalist for 2022. And then I'm going to go to AP Scholars. They've been announced. So kudos to the 2021 Apollo and Tech AP Scholars. It's broken down into 3 portions or 3 distinct things, and so I just need everybody to hear this part. An AP Scholar, it's granted to students who receive scores of 3 or higher on 3 or more AP exams. In total for the district, I got to add this up, we have over 66 students that are considered AP Scholars. I could break it down by school, but I don't want to pit Apollo versus Tech. I'll wait for a ball game to do that. Then you have AP Scholars with honors. And so that's granted to students who receive an average score of at least 3.25 on all AP exams taken and scores of 3 or higher on 4 or more of these AP exams. We have 20 students from both schools total that are AP Scholars with honors. And then lastly, you have AP Scholars with distinction. And that's granted to students who receive an average score of at least 3.5 on all AP exams taken and scores of 3 or higher on 5 or more of these exams. And we have 26 students who are AP Scholars with distinction. Al, I would say, can we put that in Zillow? With that, we should. With that being said, I'm going to move to the one thing, but it's about students, but it's not about students, but the organization is all about students. LEAF. We are as always grateful to LEAF for their generous support of our schools and programs. This fall, LEAF had granted over $174,698 towards Adopt a Classroom, Preschool for Success, Immersion, and other programs, as well as provided activities and academic grants. LEAF, we as a district, thank you. Now back to students. Congratulations to Daniel Cook, Lily Huber, and Ava Amahauer, and Dylan Paulson, and Will Hagemeister for being selected as all-conference jazz band students. On Monday, October 25th, they rehearsed and performed with the Central Lakes Conference all-conference jazz bands, along with other accomplished students from our conference. Next, congratulations to 4 Apollo cross-country runners, Jackson Jarrett, Malcolm Snowberg, Elijah Preisler, and Zilly Linsner, who all participated in the recent state tournament. And that's just running entirely too far for me. And then lastly, and this is something that is just like a tradition, congratulations to the Tech boys soccer team as well, as they participated in the state tournament a few weeks ago. And that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you. Now we have Jan out there keeping us on task. Thank you, Jan. I need to back it up a little bit here to our action item summary evaluation of the superintendent, and we need to approve that evaluation. So I'm looking for a motion.
Second.
Okay. Thank you, Jan. We have a motion by Les and a second by Natalie. Les, can you please call roll?
Les Green is yes. Schwartz.
Yes.
Natalie Ringsmuth.
Yes.
Scott Andreasen.
Yes.
Al Dahlgren.
Yes.
Zach Dorholt. Yes. Shannon Hawes.
Yes. All right, thanks.
Got it.
Okay. We're trying to sneak one past you, so. Okay. Then we're on to reports, Board of Education Standing Committee reports. Achievement, Integration, and Equity Committee, Natalie Ringsmuth.
Thank you, Chair Haas. We met this week. We talked about 4 things. One was from one of our meetings, it was thrown to us to talk about how we want to have the ongoing discussion about suspension disproportionality rates. We had decided as a committee that our committee will hear a report from the assistant superintendents at the end of each trimester. The first report will be in January of 2022, actually that should be, for the first trimester of this school year. And then once a year, this data will be brought to the full board for review in June, and it'll include the full school year. And then we talked briefly about school presentations, discussion, just checking in on how they're going, and board members thought they were going well. Talked about getting the data packet for the school a little bit sooner so we can really dig into that. And then Lori Posch talked to us about high school course proposals. She went through all of the new high school course proposals, and the next step in this process is for those course proposals to go to the Learning and Teaching Committee. Then they're reviewed by the board next month and added to the course handbook is the next step. And then they go to curriculum writing in summer of '22 if they are approved. And then we finally got around to talking about world's best workforce. The reason it was off a little bit from when we usually talk about it is that district leaders are continuing to try to align this with our strategic plan and our achievement, integration, and equity plan, so we don't have three arms trying to do different work and we're all focused in one area. And the board will review the summary of the 2021 goals for the world's best workforce and see the 21-22 plan in our December 15th meeting. And the 21-22 goals will be added to the consent agenda in a January meeting. And our next meeting, we won't have a meeting in December, our next meeting is in January. That's all.
Thanks. I think we want to jump in here with a question. Al?
I have a question. It isn't necessarily for Natalie, it's probably more for Willie. On the data packets with the school presentations, they're generally sent out as a separate piece. So it comes from Jan to the board members, and then it doesn't get attached to the agenda. And I'm wondering why that isn't public data. I'm kind of under the impression that if it's going to get disseminated to all board members, that it becomes public data, and it really should be part of the agenda attached. It's just, I noticed that today, and it was kind of unnerving to me that we were. It's a question. Does it need to be does it need to be public data? And if it does, or if it is, then it would be a comment that I believe that we should be posting it on the agenda alongside the school presentation.
And there's no mention of it in the presentation.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and then Finance and Audit Committee, Chair Al Dahlgren.
Finance and Audit Committee met on November 8th. President Gary, Scott, Al, Amy, Carl, Lori, and Mike. And Jackie Knowles was there from Bergen KDV. The first item on the agenda was the audit report, same one that we all saw tonight. So I'm not going to talk about that one at all, but it was fiscal year 21 financial statements audit. And the second item on the agenda of the two items that were on there was talking about the Clark Field transfer. We are moving forward with bringing this to the board to transfer the Clark Field property to the city, and the city council has already approved the transfer process, so it's on us right now. The district has requested that the city draft an agreement for the district's use of Nina Creek Park in the future prior to the Clark Field property being transferred to the city. The agreement will be emailed to committee members for review once available. Once this is completed, we will move forward with board approval for the transfer of the Clark Field property, so if the board votes that way. We are currently waiting for the city to draft a purchase agreement, and we will bring to the school board for approval as soon as it is ready, which will hopefully be at the December 1st meeting. And the whole deal there is that the city has big plans to develop Nina Creek Park. They're going to add, I believe it's 4 or 5 soccer fields and 3 softball fields and 1 baseball field. And that will be very useful to tech to use on a seasonal basis. And we want to have first dibs on those fields so that when we have, especially when we have tournaments and things, we have a lot of fields available and we get first dibs and get to use those fields. So as part of our transferring the Clark Field property to the city so that they can use it for their purposes, we would like to be able to use the city's property for our purposes. And we need an agreement in place, or wish to have an agreement in place before we make that transfer. So that's what we're waiting on. And it's multi-purpose fields.
Yeah. So we'll get that. We'll be able to view that agreement. Okay, thank you.
To come to the next board meeting.
The whole deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll see the agreement prior to that.
Yeah, it should be attached to the
Okay, yep. Okay. Did I miss anybody? I think we're caught up and. Sure, go ahead.
Just because I attended for the legislature, we attended the AMSD conference, or at least I did, and I got to hang out with Don Roper today. And just the quick report is, it is once again really awesome to see how we are not just on par, but a little ahead of the curve in regards to many of the things they discussed today. So it's kind of, well, another hats off to Mr. Jett and the amazing team in this district. It was super cool to see that we're ahead of the curve and doing well in comparison. So.
Thank you. Okay, and last is future agenda items. The Board of Education members may suggest items or topics for future board meeting agendas to the Board Development Policy and Governance Committee. December work session topics will include first readings of policies coming up and school updates. And that adjourns our meeting. It is 8:59 PM, and thanks for watching. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, December 1st, 2021. Have a good day.
I have that conversation on a